Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're doing something a little different today. Usually we look back, at history or these broad concepts, but today we're planting our feet firmly in the now, January 2026.
Yeah.
And honestly, the view from here is, it's intense.
Intense is, I think, the polite way to put it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you try to make any kind of career move in the last 6 months, the ground has just completely shifted.
Right.
We're not just talking about a tight market or inflation. This is a fundamental rewrite of the rules.
Right. And to help us decode this new reality, we're digging into our stack for today. It's the January 2026 edition of the Your Career, Your Future newsletter.
Right, from the Career Experts Group, or CE.
Exactly, CD. And for anyone listening who might be thinking, oh, great, another career blog, maybe you can give us some context on who these people actually are.
Yeah, that's a really important distinction. CG is not a content farm. It's a joint venture of master career professionals. These are people in the trenches with C-suite execs, Gen Z founders, everyone in between. They have the real data on what's actually getting people hired right now.
So they're seeing it happen in real time.
Exactly. Their whole mission is guiding people through the entire life cycle of a career, not just the hiring part.
And the theme for this edition is From Resolution to Realization, which, it sounds a little bit like a self-help poster, but I get the sense they mean something very practical by it.
They do. The argument is that in 2026, a resolution like, I want a new job, is just too flimsy.
It's not enough.
Not at all. Realization means building the infrastructure to make it happen. So we're going to talk about navigating these AI versus AI hiring wars, this whole concept of polywork, and why soft skills are suddenly the hardest currency to earn.
Let's start right there, on the battlefield. The newsletter calls the current hiring landscape AI's dual disruption.
Yeah.
We've heard about AI taking jobs for years, but this feels different. It's like the hiring process itself is the battleground now, isn't it?
It is. We're in the middle of this AI versus AI showdown. So on one side, you've got the employers. They're using these incredibly sophisticated platforms to automate everything.
Sourcing, screening.
All of it. And they're not just looking for keywords anymore. They're analyzing something called predicted performance based on data patterns. A human never even sees your name at first.
That sounds efficient for them, but pretty dystopian for the rest of us.
Right.
But here's the kicker. The candidates are fighting fire with fire.
Exactly. Candidates are using bots to write their resumes, to craft cover letters, even to automate the applications. I mean, you can have a bot apply to 50 jobs for you while you're asleep.
So a candidate bot is talking to an employer bot. What happens to the actual signal and all that noise?
It just crashes. The newsletter calls it the sea of sameness, because when everyone uses the same large language models to polish their resume, everybody starts to sound like this perfect, hallucinated corporate clone. The grammar is flawless, the structure is identical, and there's just zero personality.
So paradoxically, by trying to be perfect, you actually make yourself invisible.
That's the irony, yeah. And this is where one of the CE experts, Denise Bittler, she steps in with this really crucial insight.
Okay.
She argues that in a world of perfect generated text, the only competitive advantage you have left is your lived experience, your authentic voice.
I want to drill down on that. Because be authentic is, it's easy to say. What does she actually tell people to do?
She says you have to use AI for preparation, not replacement.
A tool, not the author.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So you create what she calls an AI-ready, human-readable resume.
AI-ready, human-readable. Okay, break that down for me.
So AI-ready means the formatting has to be clean, something the applicant tracking system, the ATS, can parse without errors. So no weird graphics, no columns that confuse the bot.
Got it.
But the content has to be human. You have to focus on specific metrics and, more importantly, real career stories.
Stories seem hard to fit on a one-page resume, though.
Well, it's about the bullet points. Instead of some generic summary like, results-oriented professional.
Which is just filler.
Total filler. You use the STAR method: situation, task, action, result, to tell a little micro story about a specific success. You can use AI to help structure it, sure. But the struggle, the context, the specific messiness of the problem you solved, that has to come from you.
Because an AI can't just make up the specific struggle you had at your last job.
It can't. And Denise also says that old-school tactics are working again.
Like what?
A genuinely thoughtful, specific thank you note after an interview. Inboxes are so flooded with AI-generated templates that a real one it stands out like a neon sign.
So let's flip the perspective. If candidates are flooding the zone with MOT applications, employers must be having an absolute nightmare trying to find good people.
And that's trend number 2, the great mismatch. You'd think with one-click apply that positions would fill instantly. But companies are just drowning in noise.
Unqualified applicants, spam bots.
Phishing attempts. It's a huge signal-to-noise problem.
So if I'm a real, legitimate candidate, how do I signal that I'm the signal and not the noise? Another expert in the group, Elise Pipitone, she talks about something called the triple threat.
Yeah, and this is a major takeaway for anyone listening. To cut through the noise in 2026, the data shows employers are looking for this specific combination.
Okay.
First, obviously relevant work experience. Second, and this is a bit controversial, a college degree.
Whoa, hold on. I feel like for the last 5 years, all we've heard is skills-based hiring. We were told the degree was dying. It's all about what you can do. Are you saying that's rolling back?
The narrative is skills-based. The data is risk-averse. Elise points out that when employers get overwhelmed by all these AI applicants, they fall back on proxies for safety.
And a degree is a safety blanket.
It's still seen as a reliable proxy for, persistence, foundational knowledge. It's a risk mitigation strategy for them.
Okay, so experience plus degree. What's the third leg of that stool?
The bridge. A specific certification or micro-credential.
Why is that the bridge?
For 2 reasons. If you don't have the degree, the certification can sometimes act as a substitute. But even if you do have the degree, the certification proves you're current. It shows the 2026 tech stack, not what you learned back in 2018. It signals you're a continuous learner.
And Elise also brings up soft skills here, which I have to say is a terrible term. Power skills feels way more accurate.
I agree. She specifically lists curiosity, accountability, and collaboration. And why? Because bots don't collaborate, they compute.
Right.
If you can prove you play well with others in a complex environment, you are solving a problem that an algorithm just can't touch.
Okay, let's pivot to the bigger picture. We've talked about how to get the job, but the very idea of the job itself seems to be mutating. The newsletter spends a lot of time on this idea of polywork.
This is trend 3, and it's a huge mindset shift that I think trips a lot of people up.
I want to be really specific here because when I hear multiple jobs, I just think exhaustion. Is polywork just a fancy word for having a side hustle because your main gig doesn't pay enough?
No. And that is a critical distinction. A side hustle is usually reactive. You need money, so you drive for Uber or you do freelance design on the weekends. It often leads to burnout.
Okay.
Polywork, as defined by the experts Laura Johnson and Petra Zink, is intentional. It's about designing a career portfolio.
A portfolio, like an investor has a portfolio of stocks.
Exactly. You are the asset manager of you. So you might have a fractional role as a COO for a startup, a consulting contract on process improvement, maybe a paid advisory board seat. You're blending different kinds of work.
Strategic, creative.
Advisory work, yeah. All to create a stable, diversified income stream.
That sounds great for someone with 20 years of experience. But is this really actionable for the average professional? The newsletter gives a how-to guide, and I want to walk through it because the how is where people get stuck.
It is actionable, but it takes discipline. Step 1 is identification. You have to figure out what work actually energizes you, not just what you're qualified for.
So not just I can use Excel, but I love solving logistics puzzles.
Exactly. Then step 2 is research. But this isn't just scrolling LinkedIn. It's listening.
What do you mean?
You listen to what problems your industry is complaining about.
Yeah.
If you hear peers constantly talking about compliance bottlenecks and you love untangling compliance, well, there's your market.
Step 3 is translation. This feels like the hardest one.
It is, because we are all programmed to introduce ourselves with job titles. I'm a marketing manager. In the polywork economy, that means nothing.
So what's the alternative?
You have to translate it into an outcome. Instead of I'm in marketing, you say, I help early-stage founders build their first repeatable demand engine.
Ah, that's a product. I can buy that.
And that leads right into step 4, pricing. You have to stop thinking like an employee who gets a salary. You have to price like a business. If your demand engine saves a company $100,000 in wasted ad spend, you charge based on that value, not the 3 hours it took you.
And the last step is rebranding.
Your digital presence has to change. Your LinkedIn profile can't just be a history lesson of what you used to do. It has to be a landing page for the future you. It needs to shout, this is the problem I solve right now.
It's a huge shift from being a passenger in your career to being the driver, but the road itself is changing too. Which brings us to the macro context, the fourth industrial revolution, or 4IR.
Trend 4.
Now, Fourth Industrial Revolution is one of those buzzwords you hear at Davos. What does it actually mean for someone trying to pay their mortgage in 2026?
It means the walls between systems are just coming down.
Mm.
It's the convergence of the digital, the physical, and the biological.
So not just ChatGPT.
Not just ChatGPT, we're talking robotics, genomics, the Internet of Things, blockchain, all interacting with each other.
Which naturally creates this huge fear of obsolescence. If robots do the physical stuff and AI does the mental stuff, what's left for me?
That fear is totally valid. But Anna Kaska, a futurist cited in the newsletter, she says we have to pivot to the opportunity. 4IR is creating jobs that just didn't exist 5 years ago.
Like
Blockchain forensics, green tech implementation, augmented reality interface design, things we couldn't even imagine.
So we need a survival guide for this new world. Jean Stoner lays out a future-ready action plan.
She does. And the very first step is adaptability. It sounds like a cliche, but the metric for success has changed. It used to be knowledge retention. What do you know? Now it's knowledge velocity. How fast can you learn the next new thing?
She also talks about skill stacking, which I love because it feels so manageable.
It is. Instead of going back for a whole new 4-year degree, you just stack complementary skills. So you take your core skill, let's say project management, you stack a layer of data analytics on top, then you stack a layer of AI fluency.
And suddenly you're unique.
Suddenly you have a combination that's very hard for an automated system to replicate.
And then there are the meta skills.
This, for me, is the most important part of this whole deep dive.
Yeah.
Meta skills are the AI-resistant capabilities.
Okay.
Things like systems thinking, seeing how the whole machine works, emotional intelligence, and, surprisingly, ethical judgment.
Why ethical judgment?
Because an AI can give you the most efficient answer, but it can't tell you if it's the right thing to do.
Right.
For your community, for your brand's reputation, for your long-term survival. That takes human nuance.
And the final step in her plan is visibility, working out loud.
Yes. If you're learning all these new skills in a dark room by yourself, it doesn't help your career. You have to share your insights, post about what you're learning. In a digital world, if you're invisible, you're vulnerable.
That actually segues perfectly into the final trend, because where are we even doing all this work? Apparently everywhere. Trend 5 is the global mobile workforce.
The numbers here are just staggering.
Yeah.
As of 2025, you've got about 32.6 million Americans working remotely. But globally, 58% of the workforce is mobile.
That's a massive, massive shift. I have to imagine there's a downside to that freedom, though.
Jacqueline Perros points out it's a double-edged sword. Yes, you can live anywhere, work from a cabin in Montana, but it means your competition is also everywhere. You're not just competing with the person across town. You're competing with talent in London, Bangalore, São Paulo, Lagos.
The talent pool is now an ocean. How do you not drown?
You have to develop cultural and communication agility. This is now a top demand in job postings. Can you collaborate across time zones? Can you navigate cultural nuances without causing offense?
It's not just about speaking the language.
Not at all. It's about reading the room when the room is virtual and spans 3 continents.
And Paris mentions one more thing that I think is fascinating, well-being as a strategy.
This is so crucial. We used to think of well-being as this nice-to-have thing HR put on a poster.
Yeah.
In a global, always-on workforce, burnout is the #1 threat to your income. So high performers now treat boundaries and mental health as asset protection.
Asset protection.
If you burn out, you lose your competitive edge. So rest isn't a luxury, it's a productivity hack.
That is such a critical reframing. It's not about being soft, it's about being sustainable.
It's career endurance.
Yeah. We've covered a huge amount of ground here. The AI hiring wars, the mechanics of polywork, this fourth industrial revolution. I want to take a second just to acknowledge the source network again. This newsletter really acts as a directory, doesn't it?
It really does. Think of it as a shortcut to the right expert. If you're a senior exec or C-suite, you look up Denise Bittler. If you're a Gen Z tech professional trying to build your brand, you find Jacqueline Perros.
And Jean Stoner is the go-to for tech leaders, while Elise Pipitone is for anyone feeling stuck and needing that coaching push.
And don't forget Laura Johnson, who focuses on high-achieving women targeting those C-suite roles. It's good to know there are actual people behind all this data.
Absolutely. So let's try to synthesize this. We've looked at all these trends for January 2026. What's the core message here?
I think the core message is that fighting the technology is just a losing battle. The goal in 2026 is to become more human. The better the bots get, the higher the premium the market places on your storytelling, your emotional intelligence, your cultural agility.
You use the tech for logistics.
And you use your humanity to close the deal.
It's the paradox of the AI age. The tech makes the human connection more valuable, not less.
That's the reality.
I want to leave our listeners with one final provocative thought to chew on. We've talked about how AI can replicate your resume, it can pass a coding test, it can write a cover letter.
You can do all of it.
So if you strip all of that away, what's left? What is the you that remains?
That is the question of the decade, isn't it? If your identity is tied to I write code or I write copy, you're in trouble. But if your identity is I connect dots others don't see, or I build consensus in tough situations, or I spot ethical risks before they happen.
Those are your meta skills.
Those are your meta skills. And frankly, that is the only career insurance policy that matters in 2026.
It's not about what you do, it's about how you think and how you relate.
Better get to work on that.
So, to everyone listening, stop making New Year's resolutions you're going to break by February. It's time to start designing your realization. Look at your career like a product you're building, not a ladder you're climbing.
Well said.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the future.
Take care, everyone.